When European settlers first encountered Native American dwellings, chances are they were absolutely baffled. Their first question was obvious: so, where's the chimney? What they didn't realize was that they were looking at something far more sophisticated and ingeniously designed than their own smoke-filled huts. Let's start with that legendary cone-shaped home, the tipi. It might look like just a tent at first glance, but the tipi was the RV of the plains: portable, durable, and unbelievably functional. But here's a detail most folks miss: these structures were way more than just random pieces of cloth thrown together. The design of the tipi was pure genius and a marvel of technology, wrapped in buffalo hide. That cone shape actually acted like a natural chimney. Hot air and smoke rose straight up, while fresh air was pulled in at the base. Meanwhile, the real heat, the stuff you actually want, circulated around the bottom, right where families lived. It's like a built-in HVAC system, centuries before anyone knew what HVAC even was. On top of that, there were adjustable smoke flaps. These were kinda like the world's first smart home features. Families could open, close, or angle them depending on wind direction and weather. Too much smoke. Adjust the flaps. Storm coming. Seal them up tight. That gave people total control over their inside climate. But the real magic happened with the layering system. Double-layered hides and bark coverings created an insulation sandwich that could keep interiors up to 20 degrees warmer than the outside. That's the difference between freezing and comfortable, a literal matter of life and death out on those brutal prairie winters. In the eastern woodlands, wigwams brought a different, but equally clever approach. These dome-shaped homes had frames made of flexible saplings, covered with layer after layer of bark, hide, or even earth. The result: a shelter that could handle blizzards and summer storms like a champ. What made both designs absolutely brilliant was their seasonal adaptability. Need to follow the buffalo herds? Pack up the teepee in an hour. Want extra insulation for winter? Add another covering. Planning to stay put for a few months? Build a wigwam to keep you cozy. These homes blended three things most modern houses struggle with: portability, comfort, and clever use of whatever materials happen to be lying around. No Home Depot needed. The best part? Families could set these up faster than most folks today can assemble IKEA furniture. And unlike those rickety bookshelves, these shelters actually worked perfectly the first time. But staying warm wasn't just about smart architecture. Some tribes went with a totally different approach, digging down instead of building up. Teepees were perfect for life on the move, but some native groups tackled winter's fury by literally going underground. Earth lodges were nature's own luxury bunkers. These weren't just holes in the ground with a roof slapped over. They were engineering feats that would put a modern contractor to shame. Thick earthen walls and roofs acted as insulation so powerful that families sat cozy inside while blizzards raged overhead. Here's the clever part: many of these lodges were built partially underground, sometimes 3 to 4 feet down. Why? Because Mother Earth keeps a steady temperature about 6 feet under, around 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, year-round. It's like having a built-in heater that never breaks down or sends you a monthly bill. The Hidatsa and Mandan tribes were masters at this. Their earth lodges could house huge extended families. 20 to 40 people could chill inside one place. Makes your family reunion look like a quiet tea party, right? But the real genius: these structures needed minimal wood to stay warm. While everyone else was out chopping firewood like caffeine-fueled lumberjacks, earth lodge folks kept cozy for days with just a small fire. The walls and earth trapped every bit of heat and slowly released it inside. The building process was awesome, too. First, dig out the foundation, then build a wood frame with cottonwood posts. Over that, layers of willow branches, grass, and finally, thick earth, sometimes 2 feet deep. The entrance was a covered tunnel, angled upward to keep cold air from rushing in at ground level. These weren't just quick winter shelters either. A well-built earth lodge could last 10 to 15 years with proper upkeep, longer than some modern apartment leases. That durability meant families could invest in making them truly comfortable, built-in storage, cooking spaces, even separate sleeping areas for different family groups. The wildest part was how these lodges handled moisture. Earthen walls naturally regulated humidity, and the central fire pit, perfectly positioned, kept everything dry and warm. No waking up at 3 a.m. with condensation dripping on your head. Community mattered, too. When 30 people share a heated space, body heat alone adds significant warmth. Smart planning kept everyone comfy, plus strengthened family and tribal bonds. But earth lodges weren't the only way Native Americans turned raw materials into winter gear. Their real magic came from transforming every part of their hunt into survival systems. Ever wondered why your winter jacket costs $300? Native Americans figured out better insulation thousands of years ago, with nothing but what walked, flew, or swam nearby. Animal hides weren't just for clothes, they were entire survival systems. Think about it, animals evolved to survive the same brutal winters that can kill people in hours. Their fur and skin had already cracked the thermal engineering code. Native folks were just smart enough to borrow it. But here's where it gets interesting. They didn't simply toss on some random deer skin and call it good. The process started by knowing which animals gave the best protection. Bison hides, thick, durable, perfect for outer layers and shelter walls. Rabbit fur, super soft and seriously warm, ideal as an underlayer. Elk hides, the Goldilocks stuff, not too thick, not too thin, just right for most clothing. Then comes craftsmanship, details that would make any modern engineer jealous. Smoke-curing hides didn't just preserve them, it made them naturally waterproof. Tanning with brains created leather so supple it moved like cloth but blocked wind like armor. My grandma's old leather jacket feels like cardboard compared to what these folks were making with stone tools and patience. And they wasted absolutely nothing. Hair scraped off during hide prep. Perfect insulation for moccasin linings. Tendon sinew. Natural thread, and it actually got stronger when wet, unlike plant fibers that snap apart. Marrow. They used it for waterproofing grease. Honestly kinda embarrassing for those of us tossing half our groceries. Arctic tribes took this up a notch. They'd layer seal skin under caribou fur, under more seal skin, basically a biological spacesuit. Every layer had a reason: moisture wicking, insulation, wind protection, waterproofing. Makes sense when stepping outside means you could die in 20 minutes, no amateur hour design allowed. But the real genius wasn't just wearing animal skins. It was knowing how to tweak them for different jobs. Summer hunts needed lighter, more breathable hides. Winter travel meant max warmth with flexibility. Fishing near water. Waterproof outer layers that could handle ice. Every hide was customized, not just thrown together, like having a survival tailor. And the layering game, modern outdoor gear companies could learn a thing or two. Your grandma's dress in layers before you go out tip. Totally unoriginal. Native Americans nailed this centuries ago, and, frankly, did it better than most folks do today. The secret wasn't just more clothes, it was strategic layering that turned your outfit into a personal climate system. Inner layer, soft, lightweight furs right up against the skin, like rabbit, fox, or deer hide, material trapping body heat while letting moisture out. This was no basic undershirt. Middle layer, heavier hides like elk or caribou brought serious warmth without bulking you up and making movement impossible. But here's the clever bit, they weren't sewn together permanently, so you could add or shed layers fast, depending on what you needed. The outer layer? Straight up genius, thick, weatherproof stuff like bison hide or carefully treated leather that deflects wind, snow, and rain. Some tribes even wove bird feathers between layers, basically a prehistoric down jacket. Makes you wonder why it took us so long to figure out goose down, right? Local variations showed off incredible adaptation. Arctic tribes went full in with thick fur parkas to take on temps that'd make a polar bear complain. Plains tribes designed lighter, more flexible kits made for on-the-move living in unpredictable weather. The real brilliance was in the details. Sleeves could tie tight or loosen up for activity. Hood stayed on in high winds but didn't cut off peripheral vision, pretty important while tracking game or keeping an eye out for trouble. Even the way garments were cut let air flow as needed to cut down overheating, something modern hikers still struggle with. Each piece did double duty, too. A winter cloak was a blanket at night. Leggings shielded you from thorns and cold while letting you move freely. Nothing was single-use, resources were precious. The whole system needed zero electricity, gave off no carbon emissions, and lasted for years with good care. Meanwhile, we're still trying to invent synthetic stuff that performs like what they made from animal hides and clever thinking. But clothing was just one piece of the puzzle. The real game changer was something you probably walk past every day without thinking. Ever tried warming your bed with a hot water bottle? Native Americans found something even better centuries before rubber was invented. They turned ordinary rocks into portable heaters that would make your grandma's electric blanket jealous. The real magic: they didn't just grab any old rock. That's rookie territory. Some rocks, like slate or river stones, will crack or even explode if heated too fast. Now, that's one way to wake up at 2 a.m. Instead, experienced tribes knew exactly which stones could take the heat. They'd pick stones during the day, set them near the fire, not directly in the flames, for hours. Slow heating meant no thermal shock and tons of stored heat energy. Think of each rock like a primitive battery. Instead of charging your phone, it charged up your comfort for a bitter winter night. But here's where it gets clever: these weren't just bed warmers. Heated stones did a bunch of jobs: warming sleeping areas, drying clothes, keeping food from freezing, even helping sore muscles after long hunts. The portability was wild, too. Unlike a stationary campfire, stone heaters could go wherever the warmth was needed most, moving from one sleeping spot to another. Just wrap up your favorite stone in a hide and your heater comes with. Different tribes came up with all kinds of tricks to get the most out of heated rocks. Some wrapped them in soft leather for controlled heat, others put them in special woven baskets so you could move them around safely. Plains tribes even had stone warming contests to see whose rock stayed hot the longest, because apparently even survival skills needed a competitive angle. The really cool part: a properly heated stone could radiate warmth for 6 to 8 hours. That's all-night comfort from one afternoon's work. Modern heating pads barely last 4 hours on a charge, and need electricity. But stones weren't the only heat source they mastered. The biggest social genius happened when everyone gathered around one furnace that was also the living room combined. If you think families argue over the TV remote, try sharing one fire with 20 relatives during a blizzard. For Native American communities, the communal fire pit wasn't just about surviving, it was the beating heart of everything. Picture your local coffee shop, minus the barista, swap Wi-Fi for actual warmth. That's what these central fires meant. Families didn't just huddle around for heat, they planned whole social calendars around that glowing centerpiece. Placement wasn't a "just put it here" type decision. These folks had pit positioning down to a science that would make any modern HVAC engineer jealous. The fire had to be right in the center for even heat, but also catch drafts to pull smoke up and out. Too close to the entrance. Cold air swoops in, too far back. You're choking on smoke. The real skill was fuel management. While we freak out when our phones hit 20% battery, these folks kept fires burning for months with careful precision, knowing exactly which woods burned hottest, which lasted longest, and how to blend them for 12 hours of steady warmth. And let's talk about social genius. When you gather everyone around one heat source each night, something incredible happens. Kids learn from elders, stories get passed down, problems get solved together. Basically, mandatory family meeting, except nobody whines, because if you skip it, you freeze. The firekeeper was basically the most important person on the block, not just someone who lit matches, but a thermal engineer, weather forecaster, and community organizer in one. They could read wind patterns, figure out wood quality, and keep that fire going when storms rolled in. The real magic was turning survival into a social institution. The fire warmed bodies but also relationships. Arguments settled, marriages arranged, hunting plans made, all in the heat of the moment. One well-managed central fire could keep an entire extended family warm while using half the wood of individual fires. It's like carpooling, just for heat. But even the smartest fire couldn't beat everything. When winter storms hit hard, placing your shelter just right got absolutely crucial. You could have the best insulated home in the world, but if it's in the wrong spot, you might as well be camping in a fridge. Native Americans got something that modern architects are still figuring out: location beats build every time. Think about your grandpa's fussiness over his favorite recliner. These folks chose shelter spots like their life depended on it, because it did. The golden rule. Find nature's windbreaks before you build. Dense forests turned into natural walls against harsh winter winds. Rocky outcroppings and hillsides gave protection no extra hide layers could match, like a bouncer keeping trouble outside. And here's the smart part: riverbanks weren't just picked for easy water access. The sloped landscape created cozy pockets of still air, nature's own heat bubbles. Dramatic ridgelines like in the movies. Terrible for staying warm. Wind rips through those places like a freight train. There was also the sunrise strategy. East-facing entrances weren't about fashion, but soaking up every last bit of morning sun. That first sunlight meant the difference between waking up energized or like a popsicle. Some tribes got even more protective, building their own windbreaks, fallen logs for barriers, brush piles for shields, even snow walls in harsh winters, using nature's weapon against itself. Pretty clever for folks without engineering degrees, right? The really brilliant part: they'd test these sites in different seasons before settling in. No lease agreements needed, just straight-up observation. They'd watch how winds shifted, where the snow drifted deepest, which spots stayed dry in storms. Valley bottoms felt cozy at first, but cold air sinks right in. The sweet spot was halfway up the hillside, high enough above the cold pool, low enough to dodge ridgetop winds. Like finding the perfect spot in a pool: pick wrong, and you freeze. It wasn't just about warmth either. Good placement meant less firewood, less fuss over heat, more energy for hunting and cooking. But even the perfect spot was useless if you didn't know how to keep that precious warmth inside. That's where the real magic was: daily survival techniques that turned an ordinary shack into a winter fortress. You know how your grandma had magical little tricks? Native Americans had survival hacks that would make a Swiss Army knife jealous. Take heated sand, for example. Way before electric blankets, tribes would heat sand near the fire and wrap it up in animal hides. This made portable warmth that lasted for hours, the original hand warmer, way better than losing the store-bought version in your coat pocket. Sand held heat longer than rocks and was perfect for wrapping around cold feet or aching backs after long nights. The slick part. Fire-starting materials weren't kept in fancy waterproof tins. They tucked tinder, dry bark, and flint inside their clothes, right up against their body. Body heat kept it bone dry and always ready for emergencies. Smart, right? Try explaining that to your insurance company. The cooking setup was genius, too. Instead of building everything on level ground, they'd dig cooking pits just below the sleeping area. Why? Because heat rises. Warm air from the cooking fire naturally warmed up where people slept. It's like a built-in heating system mankind figured out centuries before central air was even a thing. Don't bother looking for moisturizer at the pharmacy. The real trick was animal fat and oils, not just for cooking, but rubbed on exposed skin to keep out frostbite and windburn. No fancy marketing needed, just pure, effective protection when your actual life depended on it. And speaking of life-saving tricks, let's talk heat zones. Families packed sleeping hides tightly, making cozy pockets that trapped body heat all night. Kinda like a medieval sleeping bag party, but way more effective, and nobody griped about hogging the covers. Every action had a thermal reason: where to sleep, how to lay out your gear, even breathing through your nose in extreme cold to warm air before it hit your lungs. None of these tricks was random, they were battle-tested through generations of rough winters where mistakes meant death. No second chances, no backup heaters, just pure intelligence and know-how, passed down so families could actually survive to see another spring. That's the practical smarts that kept whole communities alive when nature threw everything it had at them. If you liked my video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Check out my other videos for more just like this. Got questions? Meet me in the comments, let's chat.